Hello and welcome to the new devlog of my plant shop manager. In this episode, a full new room modeled, some basic lights, lots of improvements for the game loop, and a new modelized plant. Stay tuned to discover which plant will be the newest addition to the game. One of the first things I tried focusing on during those 2 weeks was to model the growing room so we would have all the necessary environments to proceed with the gaming loop. I wanted the room to reflect the vibe of the shop, so I've reused most of the assets already created for the shop, which saved quite a bit of time. With the room done, I just proceeded to add it to Godot and created a growing room scene. You'll see throughout the video that the room has changed a bit through these 2 weeks, and I will show you and explain why as we move on. With the two main environments of the game created, it was time to proceed with the lighting to try and turn our game even more beautiful. For the lighting, it was supposed to be straightforward, but it was actually a bit more complex than I thought. Remember that this is my first ever game in 3D and lighting works quite differently. So, what I ended up doing was to add a directional light that would just be there to be able to see the scene while playing the game. However, the problem was that this light was actually creating shadows, making it look like the shop was not in a closed room, but rather it was open and outside. After a bit of research, I found that it was possible to untoggle shadows from that light, which is exactly what I needed for this to work. Now that the scene was lit up, I added a spotlight behind the windows to simulate the sun shining inside the shop. This is where I got my first problem related to the lighting. Even though the glass was transparent, it would not let the light go through. I've tried changing the material in Blender, but whatever I was trying, the light was being blocked by the windows. To fix this, I ended up creating a new mesh inside Godot directly, and with a little fiddling, it ended up working as planned, so I added the exact same lighting setup to the growing room. Finally, in the future, I will be animating the spotlight to have it move from left to right, and I will also modulate the color to simulate the sunset color of the sun, and I'm sure it will end up looking quite great. Before I started working on the game loop and on defining the mechanics, I wanted to have a good way to show when hovering onto something that will be clickable, because I would like to limit the UI if possible. I used a simple tutorial I found online, but I cannot say I'm very satisfied about it, especially with the leaves of the monstera. So I'll be trying to work and improve on it later on, but that will be in the next videos to come. To me, the obvious mechanics that were needed were water and light. That's the two main factors for plant growth. For the water mechanic, it was pretty obvious. Just add a water amount that each plant need, and add a way to increase water with it, and decrease it over time. I achieved this by allowing the player to click on the watering can, and then click on a plant to add water. For light, it was a bit trickier. How could I use the spotlights of the scene to manage the light level for the plants? I wanted a system that would be kind of easy to manage, as light could become kind of complicated fast. So in the end, I decided to have a system where each plant needs to have either direct light or indirect light, and then add some blinds that the player will be able to interact with to close and open them. If the blinds are open, then the plant will receive direct light. If they're closed, it would be indirect. I proceeded to create some blinds in Blender and made a small animation for opening and closing. I feel like this mechanics without any UI is already very visible and very understandable, which I'm very glad for. As an extra, I am thinking about adding a soil mechanic, where you need to keep the soil quality in check and add some fertilizers to the soils to make it better. I am leaving this one for later, as I would like to have some kind of UI or a way to show the soil quality, and for now I do not have what is needed. Finally, and this one might be subject to change, I was thinking about a potential product that could be used to boost a plant growth. The player would be able to buy it for a hefty price on the shop, but to be honest, I am not very sure about this yet. Let me know in the comments. After defining the main mechanics, I wanted to be able to transit from the growing room to the shop and back. For this, I created a saving and loading system to handle the transitions. I really don't want to go too much into the details because I believe it's quite boring. So to be simple, now the game remembers which plants are to be sold and sets them up in the shop. If they're not sold, it also remembers where are the plants that haven't. In the growing room, it remembers where the plants are on the growing table, how far they have grown, and also the blind status. So for now, we can go back and forth from the growing room to the shop indefinitely and have all the data remembered and stored by the game. For the new plant I will be adding to our plant shop game, I wanted to choose a plant that, unlike the Monstera, will not grow too tall. I needed a plant that wouldn't be too hard to model, but that would have something visually original. After looking around in my house, I think I found the perfect plant for the job. The Spathiphyllum, or peace lily, way easier to pronounce that way. It is a plant that has pretty straightforward leaves, all leaves being quite the same. I just had to model one and then reuse it inside the pot and just copy paste it, change its size, and then we're good to go. The particularity about this plant is that in the perfect conditions, it can develop a beautiful white flower, perfect to make it recognizable for the player. And this is what I've been able to do for the past 2 weeks. I'm really happy with the progress, and I feel like everything is going the proper way. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Feel free to give me your opinion on the game and its improvements. If you are interested in the game or want to know more about the process of making a game, please subscribe with the bell to get notified whenever the next video will come out. In the next video, I will be trying to work on the basic UI for the game, add some customizing options for the shop, create more plants, and as usual, keep working on the gaming loop and its mechanics. I will see you in 2 weeks for the next video. Ciao, bye bye.